This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life. Fuck Donald Trump. He just lost. I'm not going to go on and on about it. It's just nice to feel balance being restored, normalcy coming back. I am definitely worried about the reaction that's going to happen, and I'm worried about this is going to be fucking scary for a little bit. Real scary, because he's not going to go away, and he's definitely not going to go down without doing as much damage as possible. But fucking, hey, cut him out. Just get him out. That was good. I can't concentrate very well right now. Like, this just happened like an hour ago. And I've just been on the phone with so many people, texting and talking. My brother and I were on the phone for like half an hour. So there's hope. I'm filled with hope again. I see goodness winning over evil. And I think that was one of the hardest things to watch happen, was evil was winning. Okay. Enough about that. I had a story I was going to tell on this intro, and then that happened, but I guess it kind of ties together. I was on a plane. Let me close that Facebook window, because goddamn, these motherfuckers won't shut up. There it is. I couldn't find it. I was on a plane coming back from Portland, where I was shooting 2 episodes of Inkpulp Instruction, which, if you haven't got on board yet, hop on. The campaign's coming to an end soon. And they board you very specifically, and they ask you to deplane very specifically because of COVID. They want it to be safe, they want it to be efficient, and they want everyone to be protected. It's that simple. So they ask you to stay seated in your row until the row in front of you is moving off the plane. Then you can get up from your seat, grab your bag from the top bins, and get the fuck off. So they're just asking you to stay seated. Now, this flight I was on was very empty, so a lot of us, myself included, had rows to ourselves. And there was a guy, like, 1 row in front of me, over to the right. I was on the left. We both had rows to ourselves. And so everyone's sitting there waiting patiently. And this guy from the very back just decides he's ready to get off, so he just kind of walks up. And it's like 2 rows in front of me is where the line is backed up to. And so this guy has to stop. And he stops right in front of the row that this other dude had to himself. This other dude, I'll just call him the Scottish dude, or the Scotsman, because once he starts talking, it's very clear he's from Scotland. And so the guy gets up right next to the Scotsman. And the Scotsman looks up at him and just does this. I gotta get it in camera. Does this to the dude. And the dude is like, oh shit, I'm caught. And he's just kind of looking at the floor, but he doesn't back up. And then the Scotsman just goes at him. Just starts saying, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, because it was hilarious. And I'm going to try to do my accent too. He was like, are you special? And the guy just won't answer. And the Scotsman just doesn't stop. He's like, why can't you rate like the rest of us? And he's pissed, and he's right. He's so right, the Scotsman. And he's just saying, like, if you just follow the rules, we'll all get off the plane safely and in a timely fashion. and this other guy's just staring at the floor. He's a spineless man. He's not standing up for the fact that he said fuck it. But it just made me think a lot, and this kind of ties into what I think America's kind of going through, is this selfishness. This I am going to follow. I'm going to do what I want to do, whenever I want to do it, because I am a free citizen of a free country. And it seems like American freedom has become mistaken with selfishness. American freedom, you're free to do what you want with the consciousness of how it's going to affect other people. The idea is we're a community. We are a United States of America. It's not you. It's not you. So if we all work together, we can have a great place. But it seems more typical of the Trump supporter. This mentality of don't tell me what to do. And I live in Georgia, so I see it all the fucking time with the masks. I mean, when they were just simply asking people to wear masks, don't you tell me what to do. It's like, wait a minute. This isn't about you. It's about us. So it's the selfishness that prevails that's going on right now. And I think the Trump loss is a hope that we can return to a community. But, I mean, we're so divided right now. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me get a little better frame going. There we go. So, I don't know. I try to live by the idea of a community. And I really think that the big problem in America is community erodes. And it's eroding. And neighbors don't look out for neighbors. People don't talk to people. People don't help others. It would be nice to get back to that. And I something I'm really trying to do in my life is be more aware of community, be kinder, be nicer, engage in a conversation with someone. Like when I go to the gym and check in, hey, how you doing? Like, let's just be nice to each other. And that shit makes a fucking difference. It's like a contagious thing. Like, if I get up at 6 in the morning and I'm at the gym at like 6:30 and I say something nice to the person who checked me in, like, that's a cool watch you're wearing, or whatever it is. You know, how are you today? It lifts their spirit. And then their lifted spirit lifts yours. And then you both part ways lifted. And then you go on to do that, and it grows and grows and grows. And that's like raising your frequency. And we all have that power within us. And then we can also do the damage. We can be down. You can walk in all depressed and upset about something and talk to someone, and it might be legit, and I get that. I mean, bad shit happens and we get upset. But if you walk in and you're really blue and you say it to someone else, you can bring them down, and then you can spread that out. And everyone right now is, not everyone, but a lot of people in this country right now are so like just riled up, tight and stressed and stiff, that's what comes across, and that's what spreads. And there's so much anger out there. I think if we all just work on ourselves a bit, get that anger out, get to a more peaceful place inside, we can make everything better around us. I mean, I meditate. That certainly helps. Exercise certainly helps. Music helps a ton. Art helps a ton. Yeah, so I think the more we can do to grow and heal whatever stress or anger we're dealing with, because it's a very difficult time to be stress-free and not full of anger, because of the fact that our lives are so crowded with shit to do because of our phones and technology, and then there's social media, and it's hard. But I don't know, we have to be more aware of it. There's a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which I've listened to some of it so far. It's so mind-blowing. I think it should be watched. Everyone should watch it. And it's just kind of about how, like, there was a movie, I know people my generation remember this, but younger generation may not know it, called The Truman Show, where it's basically this dude's entire life is a reality show, and he's the only one that's unaware of it. So the town he lives in is a sound stage. It's a giant sound stage. And everyone in the town is a paid actor to be on the show. And this, from a baby on, is being raised completely unaware. There's cameras everywhere in the town. And he's the only one that doesn't know. And the movie is about him figuring it out. And it's kind of existential. I'm not going to get into that. But the idea is this. So he lives in this world completely unaware that it's false. Now, what this documentary is about is how social media does the same thing for us. We all live in this world where this phone is telling us reality is not real, or the reality we believe to be real is not actually real. It's like, these algorithms are so fucking smart. All they want to do is keep you on the app. And they're going to do anything they can to keep you on the app. And they're going to show you stuff you want to see to keep you interested. So they very quickly and easily figure out what you like, what your political beliefs are, who you like to look at, and all this shit. And they just keep showing you that shit. So we're living in a world where everyone lives in their own reality. And that is how, and I've wrestled with this until I saw this documentary. I didn't understand how someone could support Donald Trump. I still don't all the way, because, I mean, it's pretty obvious the dude's a fucking piece of shit through and through. And I'm not talking politics. I'm talking, let's forget the presidency. Let's go back and look at the life of this person, because I knew he was a scumbag from before he ever started running. My family's from New York. I heard stories about the shit he used to do up there when I was a kid. Like, this dude's an A-class scumbag. But I didn't understand how people could believe him. Because he's a con man. He's a liar. But if you are a conservative-minded human being, and I have no problem with that, I do think we need differing opinions. And I know if we're talking about centered human beings, I can have a conversation with a center-right person and agree to disagree, but respect their opinion on some things. So if you're from that mind and your Facebook is showing you, like, you know, Joe Biden's a pedophile, and you just see it post after post, and it's knowing that all of your friends on Facebook who think this way are thinking that way, they're thinking the same as you, so it's showing them all the same shit, and everyone's talking about it on Facebook, and they're only showing you the people who are like-minded. And then you go to the grocery store, and there's a clerk there that's checking you out that sees your little Trump sticker, and they're Trumpy, and then they get going too. It builds a world that doesn't exist, where all of a sudden Joe Biden's compromised by China. Not Trump, but Biden. And it's crazy, because in the reality I live in, I mean, that motherfucker Trump was compromised by Russia. And that's real. But now I know how they cannot see that. It's crafty shit. It's crafty. It's really crafty. But it's important that I think we all watch this documentary, gain some awareness here about what we're doing, and put these fucking phones in check in our lives. I mean, I run my business through it, and I get a lot through it, but since I saw this, I'm not casually scrolling through it. I'm posting my business shit. I'm getting off. I'm checking in to see if any of my business shit needs some attention, some replies, whatever. Do that, then I gotta get off. Because this thing is just like, stay here. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. Don't leave me. We gotta put that shit in check. I mean, the problem, the real problem is Facebook. That's the shit that's eating our country alive. That's the shit that's splitting us in half. More than anything. Facebook allowed a Donald Trump. Donald Trump saw the opportunity and came in and nurtured it like a fucking virus. Spread his shit. Anyways, he's out of there. It's going to get scary, though. I'm worried about that. All right, enough about that. Enough about that. You can see I'm all worked up. I need to go meditate. Today, let's get to some cool vibe talk. Today on this podcast, this is one of my favorite episodes I've ever recorded, and I mean that sincerely. On today's episode, I've got my man Mahfood, my co-pilot, with me, and we have Bootie Brown from the Pharcyde. Now, I've been talking about the Pharcyde with Jim as long as I've known Jim. So, I mean, yeah, I'm working on this project with Brown, but now I get to introduce Brown to Jim, and it's just like that Mike Realm episode. It's just, there's a vibe. We just all vibe. It's so easy. It's amazing to meet. I mean, I was a 20-year-old, and the Pharcyde changed my life, and I mean that sincerely. I haven't stopped listening to the Pharcyde since then, and I created artwork directly as a result of their music getting into my head. So to now be working with them, and especially Brown, to be working with Brown and talking to him. I mean, we talk every few days, and it's awesome. I mean, it's just, you dream about like what you want to do with your life, and you just work really hard to make it happen, and you just put those vibes out there, and next thing you know, like, you're working with people who are heroes to you, and you're on the same level. It's awesome. So this is a great episode because we have a great talk about Brown's life and the Pharcyde, and we also have a great rapport amongst all three of us. And this is kind of like the podcast evolving. I'm really enjoying this, and I want to get more and more hip-hop artists on, for sure. I'm really enjoying the outside of comics talk as much as I'm enjoying the inside comics talk, and I'm working on some really cool inside comics guests. But I also am really interested in talking to more and more hip-hop people, because it's when you bring other creatives in from other mediums, there's this shared wavelength that our minds kind of work on that I really, really enjoy. I love the creative. I love the minds of creatives. And I love navigating life as a creative is tricky, but finding other creatives to talk about it with is awesome. And that's one of the big things this podcast, I hope, serves to do for the creatives listening, and for the parents of creatives, for the brothers of creatives, for the sisters of the creatives, for whatever it is. It's a very blessed way to be. And I think everybody has some creativity in them, and maybe they just need help finding the outlet for it. Because I think chefs are artists, no doubt. No, that's like music and like food are like two of the highest mediums in my eyes. I mean, awesome shit. Anyways, this is I've rambled for quite a bit here, but I have a lot to say. It's a big day. It's a big day. But this is also a big podcast for me. Really had a good time doing it. So I hope you enjoy it. Before I sign off, there's a few things I got going on. If you're not following me on Instagram, please go do that, at Inkpulp. I am doing a Instagram live every week, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It might change. That's just where I started to see how that went. And I'm just get my thoughts together here. I'm gonna post, like, every week there's gonna be a topic, and I'm gonna make little flyers. So if you do follow me on Instagram, pay attention to my story, and please like and favorite a lot of posts so that it will ensure that you see what I'm putting up there so you don't miss anything. I know I've got the same time, but like every week I'll have the same time, but it's going to be different topics, and I'm going to prep that earlier in the week. So there's that. Inkpulp Instruction Episode 1. We've got about 3 weeks left on that campaign. Please check that out. The link is probably in the comments below. If not, it's on my Instagram profile. I'm learning about posting links and how I can bury shit, and I don't like that so much. So I'm just trying to grow my engagement and grow my followers on everything. So follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you're not following me here, click like, click subscribe, and comment. I'll get back to you. I always do. I think that's about it. It's a good day, America. We can all exhale a little. And I think one thing we really all need to think about here is how we can bring community back together. There are a large portion of Trump supporters who are fucking racist. That there's no doubt in my mind about that. And I'm trying to reconcile with, I know good people who support him and vote for him, and they're living in that other reality that their phones are telling them. I don't quite understand how you can't see through it, but they can't. I think if we all just write them off as assholes and racists and pieces of shit, well, we're never going to fix the damage that's been done. So my hope is spreading love and kindness. Maybe we can wake people up from the fog a bit. The ones that can be woken up. Because I don't know, maybe this is ignorant. I don't believe that half the country is just racist. Is that ignorant? It might be. Maybe it's just hopeful thinking. But I know a large portion is. I have no doubt about that. I'm not blind. But I'm hoping maybe 75% of us are not. And maybe even if it's 60, at least we can be the majority. I know America was founded on some fucked up shit. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of fucking problems. But the cancer has been removed. The tumor has been removed. Now we have to treat the cancer. Is that a profound way of saying it? It might be. It might be. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Say a quick thing. Yeah.
Say what?
Because the Low End Theory, man, that's where Odd Future and stuff started showing up. And I was friends with Willow, Gaslamp Killer.
Right.
And that was him and Flying Lotus and the Brain Feeder guys doing the Low End Theory. And then I live close to Fairfax in Hollywood, and I would see Tyler and the Odd Future kids before they blew up, when they were just little teenage skate kids talking shit to people. And then
is the Low End Theory a club in LA, I'm guessing?
It was a night. It was a weekly.
Yeah, so Low End Theory was how can I say? It's kind of they started, I can't even think of the day parties they started doing. I don't know why, but Low End Theory was here. They would have one here in LA. They would do one in San Francisco. They would do them kind of all over. So it's kind of like a movement, I would say, more than, it's just this, people would get together in different locations and then have this, like you said, Gaslamp was part of that. And I know Flying Lotus was part of that whole movement. And it was kind of like a graduating from the Dust era. So where Mirror One was kind of doing live painting during people's DJ sets and that. low end kind of brought in, I think, like the video kind of age, like you started seeing like the screens and the video stuff started interplaying and graphics,
Oh.
live graphic kind of things were more in place with the low end theory, I think.
Yeah, and it was cool because like I feel like those guys made it a bit more like experimental and avant-garde than Root Down. Like Root Down was like hip hop, funk, soul, and Low End Theory and those DJs kind of took it and put their own little twist on it of like, let's make it a little more experimental or bugged out or arty. And so I like both a lot, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
I think to me, I think that, you know, like a lot of people don't know, like Flying Lotus is related to, I think John Coltrane is his uncle.
What?
Oh no, yeah, Alice Coltrane is his.
Yeah.
No
So
shit.
Yeah.
So I think like when I first saw him and they, you know, that was the first thing people told me. So I was like, man, I'm expecting something different from this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just that whole mental thing of like, okay, this guy is coming from a whole different, and it kind of shows in his music of like what he does of like, okay, like he's doing, like you said, like an avant-garde type kind of guy where he's just doing like new breaking kind of stuff. So it kind of interplays like this is the new level of like that John Coltrane, that jazz that was kind of done back in the day where people were breaking different grounds.
So you guys ran in the same scene, just never met, you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might have been high or something, but we might have met. But I don't. I
think you'd remember that one, Jim.
Yeah.
I just think at that time, like everybody was, you know, you're just young and you're just enjoying the time, you know. And so like you may even be in the same circles, know the same type of people, just run into, because he said Breakerstra, which is, you know, like basically like Chuck, who's one of our keyboard players, he's in Breakerstra.
Oh shit! Okay.
Miles, who plays drums, he goes out with Breakerstra. Danny is another keyboard player. He went out with Breakerstra. Like they play in a group called Oregon. So it's like, you know, like, but I think like with anything, I think is always like when people describe, like talking to Fab Five Freddy and he describes New York back in the 80s, like, oh yeah, you know, these punk guys would come, you know, we talk to the Clash and Blondie would be there, and you know, these different artists, you know, Andy Warhol or just all those people. And then like, I think it's the same. Like you always have that same type of vibe of where artists get together because it's, I don't know, I think it's just a like-minded type thing. But then the industry, no matter how many people, it's always small, it seems like.
Definitely. Yeah.
I can feel that.
It was a great way to connect and meet with people, though. You know, like just there was always something going on and always some new creative. That was the best thing about living in LA is like I met the most talented people I've ever known in my life in one city. You know, it was just like overwhelming the amount of talent that's there.
Yeah, I'm jealous of your LA years, man. You had like a lot of cool experiences. I would have liked to had myself.
Yeah, it's something magical about that city for sure, man. Especially for me, like coming from the Midwest where we were culturally kind of starved, you know, it to go from that to like,
oh, I bet.
California, palm trees, and that whole lifestyle. It was awesome transition, you know.
And Brown, you're from LA, born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in LA. So, yeah, I mean, I think to me, like, for me, Japan was like the most, like I was when I was dancing probably like from 90 I say 89 to like 92, I would go back and forth to Japan a lot. And I stayed there for like 6 months at one time.
Well, you said when you were dancing, what were you doing like with dancing?
I used to dance with this she was a Japanese house music. She was a house singer, and it was it was different. It wasn't nothing that I was used to. I mean, like we're hip hop based, whatever. But dancing, I think, like kind of, if you like to dance, you just kind of like to dance, like what I'm saying. So music, not saying music was music, but it's more like vibration kind of thing.
Right. So were you like performing dancing?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, that was the start. That's how I met like everybody. Like that was.
So you grew up. You were into hip hop, I assume, growing up.
Not really. I would say like hip hop didn't really come to me till like 2021. Because after high school, I went straight to the service.
Oh, did you?
Oh, wow.
What branch? What division?
I went to Marines right after.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so like my graduation day, the next day, I was on a train. I was on a train going to like boot camp, like the
All
day
right.
after, like almost like the day after everything, like high school.
So I assume that you were always a creative spirit. I mean, knowing you just the time we've known each other, I mean, you're a full-on artist. So did you always have that in you?
Somewhat, yeah. But I think like for the most part, because I did everything. Like I mean, like I always say, like, if I was to like go right now, if it was, to some people may seem unfortunate, but I think like I would say like I almost lived somewhat of a full life. I never had the rich side, which I would like to experience.
You still got time. You still got time. It's not over yet.
Yeah. But I'll say like, as far as everything else, like, I worked for my dad when I was young. Like I've had all kinds of jobs. So I think like compared to like how other people are as far as like the music thing, like I wasn't 7 and knew like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a hip hop star. Like, hell no. Cause that wasn't something I even thought about. I think I came into the music because basically we were dancing, and it's kind of a crazy story. So anyway, we were dancing, and I used to date this girl, and
Always a woman involved.
Yeah, for sure. So I dated this girl, but basically like before I dated, we kind of like created this girl group. We felt like, oh man, there's no girl dancing kind of group. So we wanted to create this group. So anyway, creating this group, going with this girl, and this audition came up. So like while I was dancing, and I got to give a shout out to Tony Basil. Like, man, Tony Basil.
Oh, word?
Is like, I always have to tell people like, man, she's the one that set it off for so many people as far as just the whole dancing thing. Because Tony used to do a lot of Bette Midler's shows and stuff like that, Broadway plays and things like that. So Tony always kind of had to hook up. So, just freestyle dancing in the club, and Tony would be like, oh man, I got this audition for Janet. I got this audition for all these people. So shout out to Tony Basil. But anyway, going back to the story. So this girl I was dating gets this audition for this Michael Jackson Remember the Time video. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, at this time, like I'm I'm a dance teacher at one of the places teaching, you know, all these people that come dance, whatever.
Did you study dance, or you were just dancing for fun and got to know it that way?
Well, I was dancing for fun, but that's the thing with like Toni Basil. Like she basically, if you went to her house, she had like every videotape of like all the dances that you would want to see, from tapping
Oh shit.
to hip hop, pop, locking. She was just like, man, she just had the records. Like she was all knowing of just all the stuff, and she would put things together. So like there was this song like Herb Albert back in the day. Had this, I can't think of the video, but like he had came out with like some hip hop stuff. So like all that kind of stuff like that, like Toni Basil would be behind like getting the dancers for these videos. Not necessarily for like the hip hop kind of stuff, but more or less for like major art, like artists that was kind of using hip hop incorporated stuff at that time.
Okay.
Right.
So
no, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
So yeah, so this girl basically has this audition, and of course, I did some fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was this other girl, and we went out, and she found out that you know what I'm saying. So like, yeah, basically, I didn't make the audition, and it was just so like it was so fucked up for me because it's like moves that they were doing during the video were like stuff that I was teaching for my class, and yes, it was like real like crazy. So like when it went down, I was just like, man, I'm fucking over this, you know, like I'm over doing dancing behind for somebody. I feel like I could dance and rap and kind of do everything myself, and so
at that point you were rapping too?
Yeah, so that kind of just led me to like, you know what, I'm just gonna do everything myself. I feel like I can do what they're doing and do what I'm doing at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you get from there? I assume the Pharcyde was your first rap group you were in?
So basically our group was called 2 for 2. That was the name of it, because basically the idea was like there's two guys who think negative all the time, and there's two guys that kind of think have the positive aspect of certain things.
So who was the negative?
It was at the time it was me. It was Trey, Imani, this guy named Robert, and myself. So me and Robert were like kind of like the positive kind of thinking guys, and Trey and Imani was kind of like, because they were friends, they went to high school together, so they were friends and all that kind of stuff. So, but then my friend Robert was just like, man, you know, I'm more into dancing, and he was like, I got this opportunity to go dance with Janet Jackson, blah blah blah. He's like, I'd rather take this opportunity to do that. And so dancing is how I met Fat Lip, because basically Fat Lip was rapping at the time, and being that, you know, we were dancing around and people kind of knew us. So he was just like, oh man, you know, can you guys dance for me? I know that you guys could just bring people to the whatever. You guys, you know, got this kind of fan base. So I was like, oh shit, you know, what the hell? We'll do it. And so it's just weird, just like you know how Jim is saying, it's just like a weird circle in LA. Like you'll bump into one person, you're doing one thing, and then all of a sudden, like you'll meet that person again somewhere, like, oh shit, I remember you. And so that's just how it was. And then, you know, kind of like once me, Fat Lip, and Imani kind of started hanging out, that's when like I would say like the whole Pharcyde thing started brewing. So it was just like going to clubs and dancing and just like meeting different people and just all that kind of thing. So
was it something that happened pretty fast in terms of like meeting everyone and then getting like a record deal?
No, I would say like it took us 5 years. It took about 5 years, a little, because yeah. So let's say like we probably met. Nah, 5 years is a stretch. Probably like 3 years. Probably took like 3 years to get everything down. But no, it wasn't fast. I think like once we called ourselves a Pharcyde and we started doing stuff, that's when like things started going rapid. Like once everything was kind of already set in stone, it started going fast because I think our advantage was being that we was dancing. Like I had met so many people through dancing, it was just ridiculous. Like, so like already like Rosie Perez and
Oh shit.
and most of the people that would come to dance at our place was like Cree Summers at the time. So like all the different worlds and the Cosby Kid, like all just like it was kind of like a Hollywood thing, So like Theo and all those people, like all the Mario from what is I can't think of that high school movie, the high school show that was back.
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. So Mario was like, so all these people, I had already knew all these people before we even started rapping.
Right.
Okay.
So once we started rapping and started doing that, people, it became a thing like, oh man, I didn't know you did that. So that led into like us being able to do like the Living Colors and the Arsenio Hall shows and stuff like that, because everybody we knew were like either working on those shows or working behind the scenes of the shows or part of those shows.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So, this is all after you were in the service?
Yeah, this is after. Yeah.
So how long were you in for?
So I was stationed out in San Diego. So I would drive from San Diego and come and like do everything and then drive back and then try to hopefully make it back for like call that morning, like 4:00 in the morning when you had to show up. So like, yeah, I was late a couple of times.
How'd that go over?
It was cool. Like actually, like I really lucked out because right when I got out, like Desert Storm, like people started getting shipped out to Afghanistan. Okay. So like that's when everything kind of like started going. And that little thing that happened in Grenada, whatever.
Right.
So like I got lucky. Like right when I got out, like I didn't incorporate any of that kind of stuff. Like, but yeah, I was just like, I'm done. This is not like all my cousins made careers out of that. That wasn't my lane for sure.
So you got to a point where you could just leave and everything was okay?
Yeah, my whole thing, the reason why I wanted to go is I want to fly planes. And then once I knew I couldn't fly planes and be a pilot, I was like, I'm done with this shit. I don't want to be here no more.
Why couldn't you fly planes? Why did that?
Because basically you have to be an officer. So like, you have to be like a captain and you have to go to like, usually you have to, you have to go to like West Point or something like that. So
right.
The way that they would trick you was like, oh man, if you go to college, you get your schools, then, basically the difference between like enlisted or like an officer is basically like you went to school, you studied a little bit more. So like you could have somebody that went to West Point that's younger than you and they're a captain,
Right.
And you could be in like, there's enlisted guys that's been in for like 20 years, but they got to follow this person that just came out of college. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, have no, and have to take orders from this person just because they went to school because they're a captain.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So, what was boot camp like for you? Was that pretty intense?
You know what? Like, yeah, for sure. I mean, the only way that I mean, I've been to jail and I've been to boot camp, and
When were you in jail?
it's very similar in a way.
Oh shit! When were you in jail? Was this later, earlier in life?
Just back and forth, just dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you just do dumb shit. Like, you know, so like I didn't go for no extended time, but I'm just saying like going and just that whole process of going there and like you're being around a bunch of dudes and there's no girls. You're like, what?
I've had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, you did have that one.
So it's almost the same thing. Like when you go to boot camp, like, I mean, like I said, like I took the train down from LA to San Diego because that's where our boot camp is out here on the West Coast. And like once you get off that train and you walk down that little pathway, like it starts. Like it just like you're instantly thrown into a chair, your hair is shaved off.
Oh shit.
You know, you're like, you don't know shit. You don't know none of these guys. And at the time that I was going, like some people were getting the option of like, okay, do you want to go to jail or do you want to go enlist into the service? So you had like, you know, you had that. That's why I say like it really wasn't, it's almost the same.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
But I mean, I think like for me, I learned a whole lot about organizing, and I think the service, I think there are people that needs that because it's just like they tell you when to wake up, they tell you when to eat, they tell you how to do
right,
this.
Right.
I think a lot of people kind of need that in their lives because they don't have that. Like they don't naturally have that ability to do certain things for themselves, and they have to be told to do certain things.
Right. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, that discipline, man, is like, 'cause my dad was like a ex-military kind of guy, and I could tell that it had a pretty profound effect on his life and the way that he handled himself, because he's like super organized dude, you know, like just what they taught him. I mean, I just think it just stayed with him, the way he took care of his things and the way he handled himself. It was like very meticulous, organized, clean, you know, and he grilled all of me and my siblings with that discipline. But for me, it, instead of using it to apply to like keeping my room clean or my shoes shined or whatever, I took that discipline and put it into drawing and approaching my art, my craft of like, I'm super serious about this and discipline, and this is what I want to do. And years later, when I like made it as a professional artist, I explained that to him, and it was kind of like a huge revelation to him. Like, oh shit, okay. Like he's like, that's cool. That's, you know, he thought I was a slacker because I wasn't keeping my shit clean or whatever. But it really was. I wasn't interested in applying it that way. I was interested in applying it into this craft, you know. And once I broke it down for him like that, he was really into that. You know, he was kind of blown away by that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So for me, it's kind of the same. Like my dad was always, and that's why I say like kind of like once I realized it kind of wasn't for me, because I think my father had kind of instilled a certain thing in me. Like I didn't get a lot. I mean, I'm an only child, and I didn't really get a lot when I was an only child, but like whatever my dad got me, he would like, it would be kind of expensive. It would be like something like he would pay a lot out of his check for.
Sure.
But the requirement was you gotta like take care of this like it was your last thing ever. Like, you know, so like whatever it was, if I got a bike, it was like, don't leave your bike dirty. Like clean it, make sure it's oiled well. Like I had to kind of like make sure I took care of things really well. So yeah. I think like going to the service, like people, I think some people probably didn't have that. And I already kind of had that in my, you know, it was already instilled in me. Like take care of what you have. So like, you know, your shoes and the guns and all that kind of stuff that you had to kind of make sure you kind of take. I was already kind of like ahead of the curve somewhat.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. Wow.
Was your dad military too, Brown, or no?
Oh no, my dad was straight. My dad is from Belize, so
Okay.
yeah, he was straight like
born over there?
Yeah, my dad was like hardcore. So my dad was like a hippie, really. Like,
Okay.
yeah, not even like a hippie. My dad is a hippie. Like, I think my dad was the first person I ever smoked a joint with, for sure. Like,
What age? How old were you when that happened?
I was 13.
Okay.
I remember it very vividly because I was looking at the weed and he was like, "What?" He's like, "You want to do that, huh?" And I was like, And I remember like taking a hit. He like rolled me a joint, and I hit the joint. And I remember I just went outside in our backyard, and I laid at the chair, and I put my head back, and I was just blown back for that whole day. And he was just like, like, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, my dad was like, man, like my mom is like Motown. Like she's the one that, you know, Mavis Staples and
right.
Martha the Vandells and all that kind of stuff. My dad was like the Mamas and the Papas, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Cream, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
He was the Miles Davis. So like through my dad, like I always, and I later down the line, I realized that kind of played into music because I don't know if anybody had, but I had like the typical dad who had like the nice stereo.
Right.
He didn't want anybody like, don't touch it. Don't touch my
right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Don't touch my record. But the only time that I could play records was like when my dad's friends would come over and everybody, you know, like everybody's playing cards and dominoes and stuff like that. So those were the times where I actually could like, I didn't call it DJing because it was just like, hey, you know, just go play some records, like, because they were already busy. So like, I would kind of get a sense of like, it gave me a sense of like music and what fit the mode better. So like, if it was during the day or something, like start off like, oh yeah, I would play some Stevie Wonder. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like celebration kind of music, little thinking. But like later on, like when the games got serious or something like that, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play Miles Davis. I'm gonna play, you know. So it kind of gave me a sensibility of like mood and a time, like you could kind of like judge what's going to kind of like excel, you know, make that mood excel in some type of way.
Right.
Yeah. It's like you were the selector in a way, like selecting the mood and the tone of things, you know. That's a cool position to be in. Like you realize that music can affect the atmosphere that way, you know, the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like how when I see like artists and you guys doing, you know, like what you guys do, it's like to make that, like, it's the same face, but making that face, you know, whether it's a smile or a smirk or, you know, like that changes the whole mood of what the next page is going to be, or how somebody's going to interpret what's going on at that time, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So with your dad being like a hippie, were the arts important in your house growing up?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I you know, it's like certain things you never, like, you don't pay attention to until like, I want to say I probably was like 35 when everything came, like a rush came back to me, was like, oh shit. Like I never put these pieces together that was this and this was that.
Right.
My dad is more like he's like a carpenter. So like, yeah, for sure. I know my dad could build a house. Like I just know there's no doubt in my mind that he could build a house from like floor up, from like from electricity to the pipes to just everything. Like so
Like contractor stuff.
yeah, like he just knew how to do that. That shit would just blow my mind because I was just like, how do you know how to do that? You know, like
Right.
so I looked at what he did was kind of like, it was like artistry to me, because it was just like, you know, how do you make that wall just come out like that? Or how do you know the pipes, and how do you know how to do certain things? And then, you know, he had his artist, he would do some carvings or something like that, or,
Right.
you know, paint on the side and stuff like that. But more or less like his craft of what he did, I kind of looked at, he probably didn't look at it as art, but I looked at it as art.
And that kind of excited you to think about doing creative stuff at a young age?
I actually wanted to be an architect. That was really what I went to school for. That's what I wanted to do. I felt like I wanted to build houses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school at?
I went to high school and I went to like CC. Like I didn't go to no major university, anything. Like a lot of things took different turns, you know? Like I really wanted to go. I thought I was going to be a track star at one time, or a football player at one time. I was just.
So you were an athlete too?
Yeah. Yeah. Like at our school, our school had a very good athletic program. So like on my football team, you guys are just younger than me. So we had this guy named Ricky Irvins. Ricky Irvins played for the Redskins. He won a Super Bowl.
Oh.
So we had Chad. Chad played for Brown played for the Steelers. I want to say like out of our football, we had like 5 people that actually played pro.
Oh, wow.
Wow, nice.
And you know, we had like Stacey Augman. So like our basketball team, track team, like, yeah, like I saw like, I can't think of the coach from Nebraska. Like we would just see they would just come down to our practices, and like you would just see these college, university like coaches there like on the sideline. So it'd be kind of crazy sometimes.
Wow. So they're scouting out like potential talent and
yeah, we had a like our quarterback at that time, his name was Vince Phillips, and like he had the option to either play football or sign with the Yankees. And I remember he signed with the Yankees like
wow,
right out of high school.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this is not a typical artist lifestyle, going into the military and possibly sports.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can honestly say like that, like none of that hit me until like 21, 22. And so like, okay. That's why when people always ask, they like, well, what was Bizarro? I was like, man, you just have to understand, like we're in our 20s. Like we wasn't like high school kids. So like,
right.
Our excitement of like, oh shit, we're not going to be bums.
right.
That's how I could just say, like, you know, like I just know like we had one CIF. I remember I pawned my fucking CIF high school ring for a fucking burger. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, shit, yeah.
Wow. That's where we were at. You know, like we were, sure. You know, we were starving artists at that time, but it was cool. Like it was like that was the risk that I had to take. I mean, I couldn't front. Like Fat Lip was the one that said, like, man, if you want to do this, man, you're just gonna have to give up, because I lived in Pasadena, and it was hard for me to come down to LA and practice all the time and just drive back up and drive back down.
Sure.
Like,
Was this when you had a deal or when you were trying to get a deal going?
nah, we didn't have no deal at this time.
Okay.
So like, I was doing a typical thing. I would sleep in my car, all that kind of stuff. I think
Right.
that's just where it was at.
And I mean, I guess like that's just the drive of an artist. I know me, like there's just nothing that's going to get in the way of that. And if it means doing uncomfortable things, we all kind of put ourselves there to do it.
Yeah, I think once you understand, like, there's a risk that I don't know if it's a leap of faith. I don't know if you want to call it that, but I think I just look at it like a risk.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a risk that you have to take in anything that you're trying to be a part of, and you just got to kind of you got to do that. You got to experience that. That's going to make you. It's going to make you or break you. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
Not everybody survives doing that.
Right.
People have to go back.
Yeah, it's not an easy path. What were you saying, Jim?
I was just agreeing. I was like, definitely, man. That's like part of the whole challenge of making a living off your talent is like taking that initial plunge and just kind of going for it. And the talent's the one part, but the other big part is like timing, luck, being in the right place at the right time, and I mean, for the Pharcyde, man, it's like when that first record came out, it was such a refreshing breath of air to experience, because I grew up as an 80s hip-hop fan with like Run DMC, Fat Boys, Houdini, Beastie Boys and stuff. And so when the early 90s hit and all this new golden age era hip-hop stuff came out, and then all that stuff was great. But Bizarre Ride, I've told Sean this before on this podcast, when I got to art school freshman year 1993, Bizarre Ride was the only CD that we would play in studio that everyone would agree on. Like, hip-hop was still considered underground at that time. And this was in the Midwest in Kansas City. So it was like we had kids in our class that were hippies, burnouts, metalheads, goth, and there was only a couple like kids, me and myself included, that were into rap music. But for some reason, Bizarre Ride, man, it transcended genre, and everyone was like, put on that Bizarre Ride thing, that Pharcyde thing, because it was just something about that record that it was just fun, funky, weird, psychedelic, and it translated over to all the other kids in studio for some reason.
Yeah,
so,
I want to season that. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
There's just something very special about it. And also for me personally, like just being away from my family for the first time, being out of the house and on my own and at art school, that first Pharcyde record was like a big part of me kind of discovering, adulthood, what I wanted to do, being weird, bugged out, it holds a important place in my heart, man. And with all the records I've collected over the years, so thank you for being
that's dope.
Being a part of that.
Well, yeah. Let me season that, because I feel the same way as Jim. That album really rocked me when I heard it. I'm a little older than Jim, so I was a senior in college, and I was a huge hip hop fan. And at the time, the West Coast was just dominated by gangster rap. It was, Death Row Records, and the Chronic had come out. I think Snoop was just coming out, and Ice-T and Ice Cube. And so that's what I knew of LA. And I liked all kinds of rap, but I think my favorite was rap that I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but that was more creative, more artistic. So like Dilla and Tribe, that was really my language. So then to hear that in a way I've never heard it before, and coming from Cali, that just blew my mind. And it was also, it felt like, I mean, the first track is Oh Shit, and that felt like the rap I listened to when I was a little kid. Like, it was like fun party music while being art. And there were tracks on that, especially. I just listened the other week. Is it Return of the B-Boy that's on that album?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you guys did that old school track. You got it right, but added something new to it. That album is very special to me. But for me, it was Passing Me By. I hadn't heard such a personal rap experience before, like talking about like your first love or a crush or whatever. Like, it was so refreshing to hear that in rap. And Brown, I know I've said this over and over, but the way you just lead into that song, it's like my favorite like voice coming into a song ever on Passing Me By.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for me, I mean, I was in hip hop. I don't, but it's weird though, because like, I don't know, Jim, if you were around long enough, like we had dance groups back here in LA. And so like the music that we actually listened to when we were dancing back in the day was more like Kraftwerk, Cybertron,
like Egyptian Lover and
Egyptian
stuff.
Lover.
Yeah.
So basically, like if you talk to anybody, like I say 45 and up, basically we all called it the trendy days. So like basically it was more or less like you listen to this sped up, and even when we listened to Kraftwerk, we sped it up at like 45. So like when you heard it, like it was just like extra fast, like, you know, so like, and you dress like as what people call mods, like, you know, like from London and stuff like that. You had the Vespas and stuff like that, and you danced to this different music. So like hip hop came to the dancing scene. It was like, oh man, like what's this? Like it kind of changed everything. And then you started seeing more Big Daddy Kane started coming to LA, and you started seeing like, okay, what's this? But like it kind of was like a shock almost, because like we liked what we liked at that time. We liked our vibe, like, I guess the Detroit kind of electro funk kind of stuff was our vibe.
Right.
So when we started getting into hip hop, I mean, our first thing was, like I just remember Milk is Chilling. Like that was just like, that was like, nice. That was like doing the Running Man to that song, and like, and the Herbie Hancocks, the Rockets and stuff like that. You started seeing like this whole little thing started coming. But our whole vibe was always, we wanted to do happy stuff. Like our first song, even when we were 2 for 2, our first song was called We Wanna Party. So it was just it was always kind of like, we always was on a fun, kind of happy kind of thing. That was just always there with us. But I think what made the difference was that we always want to come from our own perspective. And so I think that if you couldn't, I think out of 4 people, like you would find, oh, this fits me, this perspective that this person is coming with, I experienced that. So like when you heard a song, you could attach yourself to what maybe this person was going through. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily saying you get all 4 kind of people doing certain things.
Yeah.
Did you? Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question before I forget. Brown, with the first group, were you guys actually recording music and like making demos with the first group before you were Pharcyde? And did that just morph into Pharcyde, or?
Yeah, so I would say we had about, we probably had about 6 or 7 songs as 2 for 2 before we did Pharcyde. Pharcyde didn't really come to after our Robert had kind of left, and then we were hanging out with Fat Lip. He was Jammer D at that time. So he was solo. So like when we started going out and dancing, it was just like a thing of like, oh man, this is natural for you. We should just come up with a group, and come to our, like we should just take it to the next level. And it was like, it just made sense.
Right.
So then that's when we started that. Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, let's kind of come up with the name and the idea of all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Okay.
And then, so you got a deal and you started recording Bizarre Ride?
So actually we worked at the place that we were at was called SCU. So it was kind of like an after school program. So this guy named Reggie Andrews, who basically was like a writer for like, he wrote the song Let It Whip for the Daz Band, Let It Whip.
Uh-huh.
So like he knew Herb Albert, and A&M had funded him some money for like an after school program for like up and coming producers and stuff like that. So he had like all this equipment, and he was a music teacher at this high school called Locke. It's like a high school like in Watts. So he just had all this equipment, and he was just like, Jay Swift, who was like one of his students that went there, was also like, it's weird because he had a complex, like a duplex kind of place. So like he lived in one place, the studio was in one place, and Jay Swift lived in another duplex. So like it was kind of like this whole little circle of things, and we just hung out there. Like that just became our hangout, that we would go to SCU, practice dancing. There was other groups there at the time too, and yeah, that was it. But like while we were dancing we used to dance for this guy named Candyman. I don't know if you guys, that's straight West Coast kind of thing. But
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
with Candyman, Johnny J, who produced for Tupac, was Candyman's first producer. Johnny J used to make our dance tapes. So like Johnny J used to teach me like, oh man, this is what I use to make your dance tapes and stuff like that. And that was the first time I started seeing music equipment. So I kind of knew my way around music equipment, but wasn't for sure about it. But then going to like SCU, like the equipment was there, and you just started learning all this stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wanted to bring up Jay Swift because like did he do all the beats and production for the first record for the most part?
That's where it can get cloudy. It could get cloudy depending on how you did it. So Jay Swift was more or less, I would say, like the overseer of the equipment. So like we were basically kind of authorized to use the equipment because we were under Jay Swift. But at the time, Jay Swift was more like, I don't want to say R&B. Like we had that, you remember like there was groups kind of like Expose and
Yeah.
So Jay Swift was more or less that kind of producer. He did that type of real clubby, dancey, Florentine Gardens type of music. And like hip hop, that kind of hip hop was fairly new in LA. I mean, like nobody was kind of really doing it. So like the whole sampling, I remember like how I looked at sampling, I looked at Marley Marl. Like Marley Marl had like, there was like this videotape, and Marley Marl was explaining sampling and stuff. Cause I never understood. I was like, man, why do our music in LA sound like this and music in East Coast sound like that?
Yeah.
Like, and so once I realized like, oh man, these dudes are sampling records and they're getting these breaks, like these James Brown breaks, and they're chopping it up. That was just like the next revelation to me, because everybody in LA was basically using sounds from the actual equipment. So like if you had an 808, you were using sounds from the 808 machines, or just, you know, the Roland, or whatever machine was around that time. You just used the drum sounds off of the machines. Like nobody was really sampling music. And once I found like Ultimate, I remember once we knew that there was Ultimate Breaks beat records that was out there, I remember we ordered the, like, I want to say it was like 100, 150 or something like that. No, I think it was like 60 records. We just ordered like all 60 records. Like, we gotta have these records. Like, this is gonna make the music that we're gonna make.
Yeah, those records definitely had a huge impact. Most DJs I know that came up in that era always cite those records as like, and then those records came out, and that was like the game-changing thing of discovering where a lot of sampling came from. You know?
Exactly.
Like, unless you were friends with, you know, DJ Premier or something, it's like, how would you know where all this shit is coming from?
Yeah. So once you got the records, and if you looked at it, because they had some of the records had like, they would kind of mess up the titles a little. So you would kind of you would know what it was, but they would kind of like take a letter out or something like that. So you're like, oh shit, they're getting this music from old records. So then that took me back to like my dad's collection. I'm like, but my dad got all these records, and I never, you know, and then it started like this whole like replaying my mind started coming up, like playing Stevie Wonder and playing Earth, Wind and Fire and playing all these records. I'm like, fuck, like I know this bass line. I remember this. And then it started clicking like, man, I could take this bass line from this, take that from there. So like things started kind of like piecing together once I started seeing that was a method that people were using to make music.
Right. That's a whole other science, man. That's a whole other way of making something new, you know? And then you got like, was it the four of you guys as MCs, was it a natural fit the way that you were rhyming on records together, or was that a dynamic that you guys kind of had to figure out?
I think it was a natural fit. Like we wasn't put together. Like there was no A&R to say, hey, you guys, you need to meet this guy, meet this guy, meet this guy. Like that's where I say like Jay Swift was kind of like unique in his way, because he just invited everybody down to this one spot. He was like, man, you guys should come down here. You know, I got this equipment, whatever. And so like, we all met up at this once, like we all met up at SCU, and then naturally we started formulating, you know, smoking weed and just kind of like, oh man, this would be dope. Let's try this. Let's try that. We all listened to Richard Pryor for like all the time. So that's where like the comedy side came, because we were just like, man, we thought it was brilliant of like how you could make people laugh, but at the same time, like be really deep and tell a story, you know, like how you see Dave Chappelle, like we thought that was genius to be able to do that kind of stuff. Like, damn, you can make people laugh, but you can still like tell like a hell of a deep ass story at the same time.
Yeah, I think that is genius. I think Dave Chappelle's one of the best storytellers alive, no doubt.
So that was kind of like the basis of everything. Like that was kind of like what we thought we wanted to do, was like, how can you be funny and tell this story at the same time?
That's amazing. And then I'm assuming you guys were having a blast making these actual song.
Oh yeah, like I said, like man, it was like I said, like we thought we finally realized like, damn, we're not gonna be bums. So like when things started to happen, it was like Def Jam and different record labels was coming, and like our only thing was like, but we were hungry at the time, so like our main thing was like getting people to take us out to dinner. Like, fuck that, let's you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, like man, we're gonna go such and such. I'm gonna order this, I'm gonna order that. So like we give a fuck about really signing at the time. It was like, man, how can we get a dinner? How can we just get something to eat? Like, like that was the highlight of everything.
Yes. That's amazing.
That's amazing. That's so perfect.
That's yeah, like when I was in art school, we were all, starving artists, and on the weekends there would be the big gallery openings all around the city on Friday night, and we would all go not to look at the art, but to
Free wine and cheese.
Raid the table of free food and snacks and free booze.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we did the same. But Jim, you remember the first time you got taken out by like a publisher? That was
sure.
That was awesome.
It was like, can I get the lobster and steak?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
How far can I push the envelope here before they...
Did you try to push it, Jim?
I was always pretty polite about it, but I would usually ask, like, most of the publishers were like, as soon as they said order anything you want,
which they
then I'd be like, I'm getting a lobster then, like,
right, yeah. What about you, Brown? You guys were pushing it?
Oh hell yeah! Like we would even push it to the level of like, okay, let's try to get 2 or 3 dinners out of it before we say yes or no. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like during the making of the record was like damn near like a culinary experience, because then we started like when we was in the studio, we was like, oh yeah, we had some good Indian food. Like, I mean, I never really I didn't have Indian food when I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I said that I didn't had bad food, but like, like we started getting Thai food and started eating Indian food and started like, it was like, we're in the studio, fuck it, let's try it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's on them. I mean, it was on us.
Right.
When we found out later, but at the time we were like, man, fuck it. If we got a budget, we're in the studio, we can order what we want.
Right. So that money came back out of what you were making.
Yeah, but like it was cool because like we just ordered up a shitload of food and then like had the homies come and like, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody would just sit down and just eat and just laugh. So shit was hella fun.
And how old were you when you were recording Bizarre Ride?
I would say like I was 20, 21, 22.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. And then you guys, the record comes out, did you immediately go on tour?
So the record comes out. Did we immediately go on? No, not immediately, but like definitely. Like the record didn't really crack off fast. It wasn't like a take off hit. Like I want to say it took like a good 2 years.
Right.
Did it really?
Before the record started taking off.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that, man, because like I saw the record when it came out and I didn't get it right away. And then, like I said, by 93, when I got to art school, it was like one of the hottest records on campus. Like just everybody just knew that Pharcyde record. And I think it was like a combo of that incredible cover artwork by OG Slick.
Yeah, that's what got me.
The packaging, the beats, the fun, the funkiness, the comedy of it all. It's just completely... Once people discovered it, like people knew that was a hot record.
Yeah, it was special. You knew it the first time you listened to it. This was unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with us, like, because at the time, let's say like when we were dancing and like most rap groups at that time, you did like lowrider shows or you did like other things. But like when we did our record, we were like on Lollapalooza. We were doing like a lot of what people would say, you know, the alternative scene. Like, you know, like we were doing like snowboard tours and Lollapaloozas and stuff like that. So like I think the audience that we were open to was different. But I would have to, like, you know, in hindsight, I would have to say, okay, I would have to say Delicious Vinyl in some type of way played into that, because they had artists like Tone Loc and Young MC, which was like their music, what Delicious Vinyl did, they always have seemed like they just made college music almost, like that music where you were in college that people were just wilding out to. Like I think like maybe not now, but I just say like there was no college party that I would go to and not hear Wild Thing or not hear or Funky Cole Medina or
the move.
You know, like you just heard that at a college party. Like that was and everybody would just go crazy, just do like the wildest shit at that time. So like, I think Delicious Vinyl kind of saw that within us, was like, hey, this is like the new version of the college music, and college kids are going to kind of eat this up in some type of way.
Definitely. Did you, I'm a huge fan of Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique record that like, this guy, Matt Dyke with the Dust Brothers produced that record. Did you ever meet Matt?
Yeah. Unfortunately, by the time we met Matt, he was really bad. Like, you know, like he was he was an addict by the time we had met him. So like when we first met Matt Dyke, he had a studio, and that was actually like kind of like the first studio we went to. So Mike Ross and Matt Dyke was founded Delicious Vinyl.
Right.
And so when we went to go make our demo, they were like, "Oh man, we got the studio for you guys to go to." So we went to Matt Dyke's studio. It was like the first studio we went to.
Wow.
And I just remember when we saw the shit, was like, it looked like where Frankenstein was made. Like and I mean exactly like that. Like it was cobwebs and like crazy, like just like shit was just like kind of just crazy around there. And I remember meeting Matt Dyke, came out like the back room, and like, yeah, he was pretty bad at that time. Like he had fucking like snot running down his nose and like
that's so sad, man. He was such a genius. Like all the research I've done about that era, it's like all these
Dust Brothers was the shit. They let off a whole big scene. They kind of, Dust Brothers was kind of like the Rick Rubin of West, like how Rick Rubin is of East Coast. They were like that for the West Coast.
Right. Yeah. It's just weird because like it seems like after Paul's Boutique came out and the success of Wild Thing and Tone Loc and Young MC, it seems like Matt, he just, the stories that I read, it's like, and then Matt Dyke just disappeared and no one really heard from him again. And
so I would say like when we came, he was bad. And then he kind of cleaned himself up a little. And then, he went back bad. And then he died. He just passed away.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah. But you know, it's just, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I know it's drugs and music and this whole thing of like, it's just like, it's just there. Like, it's there, and it's a lot of people that's like that was like a Matt Dyke. I mean, why can't I think of his name right now? It was so like Cypress Hill kind of had the same guy. I can't think of his name. It's so fucked up. But he was a DJ, and he gave Muggs like he was like the biggest 45 collector of like all these 45s. And he gave Muggs like all these samples that basically made Cypress Hill like there was all of Cypress Hill's records that
first Cypress Hill record sounded like nothing I'd ever heard either. The samples were crazy.
Yeah, I gotta think of his name. But anyway, like it was this DJ, and he was the same way. Like, like he was one of those guys. He had a super crazy 45. He would go through samples, and he passed away too. Just like drugs. It's just one of those things, and so it's unfortunate, but it's crazy. I don't know, like. Sometimes I always wonder, like would they do the same thing if they didn't have that? Like,
right.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's crazy, but it's unfortunate, though.
Yeah, there is something about some artists. It's almost like it's a painful existence for them.
Yeah, and I lived in LA, and it's like drugs are around. I mean, if you want drugs, you can find drugs. So if you have money and you have an addictive personality or whatever, that can become not a healthy thing, I guess I would say.
Right. Sure.
But I definitely have to ask you about Jay Dilla as well, man.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Hold on, Jim. I want to back up a sec. Dude, I'm dying to get there. We're gonna get there. I just want to know. So, how long after you recorded Bizarre Ride did you record on that Brand New Heavies record?
Actually, that was our first song. So basically, that was kind of what broke the deal with us in Delicious Vinyl, because they were coming out with the Brand New Heavies record. And so they were like, oh yeah, we about to do this record, because like at the time, I want to say like I think it was Motown. Who else? There was another label. So it was like Motown, it was another label.
And Jim, you know the record I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I have that record.
Yeah, of course.
Great.
So it was like Motown, Delicious Vinyl, and another label that we kind of was like up in the air about. And then Delicious Vinyl was like, yo, we about to do this record with this group called Brand New Heavies. And I was a big Large Professor fan.
Yes.
And Gangstar, Guru was on it. Gangstar was on it.
Yes.
So it was like, yo, we can be on this record, and before we even come out with our record. So that was kind of like what sealed the deal, actually, because we were like, man, if we can be on these records with these people already before we come out, that's just going to be a bonus for us. So that was kind of like our first song. Like Soulflower is kind of like our first song that we actually was in a real studio to do.
Okay.
And I just remember we all were super excited, and we all got too high. We all got too high and couldn't record and had to come back the next day. Like,
oh shit! Wow.
Yeah,
that's a great story.
Wow. So yeah, that was the first song that we recorded before we even recorded anything for Pharcyde. I mean, we were doing demos in our own studio, but like that was the first time like going to we actually was at the studio called Paramount. It was like I think it was Santa Monica, and it was like the smallest room that Paramount had. But we were like, fuck, we're in the studio. Like, oh man, this is what a real studio is. And I just remember like Paul Stewart, who was I think it was Paul Stewart was there. And he popped out like the most chronic weed we ever smoked. And we were just like, we're too high. This is not coming out good. We're like, we got to come back tomorrow.
Oh, shit. Wow.
Awesome. So, okay, I want to get where Jim was leading. I'm trying to do this somewhat chronologically. So things eventually do blow up for Bizarre Ride. You're touring, I assume, and you're having a really good time. Like life is going pretty awesome.
Life is good. So like we stay in, at that time we stayed in this place called Pharcyde Manor, which was like kind of like I don't want to say a flop house, but it was like we never really locked the door. So like anybody could just walk in. You know, we all were cool with like freestyle fellowship. So like our place was like the place where if somebody was coming, people just stopped in or whatever. And then
so you all lived in the same house.
Yeah, we all lived. That was like at the time that was
and
like
that's not Lab Cabin, California, right? Am I?
No. This is pre Lab Cabin. So like we felt like we needed to like stand together was like important at that time because we felt like that's how we would just bump into each other, ideas come across, and just
Sure.
the whole vibe.
Sure.
So then, yeah, we things started going. The neighborhood started getting a little rough because we wasn't staying in the nicest part, and we're like, "Fuck, man, we can't stay here longer." We had like a situation where like the limousine had came to pick us up at our house, and this guy fucking jumped into the car and fucking had like he had a Uzi.
Oh my god!
And he's fucking and he's like, yo, I gotta go get somebody from down the street, man. So basically, he wanted to do a drive-by.
Oh my god!
In the limousine. So like, it was just like we had to kind of like tell him like, dude, come on, man, we can't do a drive-by in the limousine.
Holy shit!
So were you in the limo when he jumped in?
Oh yeah. Because like, and it was just like people knew that we were doing stuff, but like, like tour buses started showing up on the street and all kinds of shit. So it was just like what the fuck are they doing? Like, so like people, like it became like, people started realizing like, oh shit, these guys are doing something.
Right. Yeah. So did he get out of the limo eventually?
Yeah, our manager talked him out the limousine, but it was just like one of those things like, okay, this is a sign. We can't, as much as we want to stay here, like we can't stay here.
Right.
So this is probably like 3 to 4 years inside like Bizarre Ride, because at that time, like, people didn't do albums like they did now. Like, you didn't do an album every year. Like, you did an album, you did a tour, you lived a little, and I could say we probably was almost following the Tribe kind of thing. Like, Tribe didn't come out with records every year. Like, they come out with a record, probably every 3 to 4 years.
Right.
We felt the same. Like, okay, that's a cool time to let the album live a little, and then you come out with the next thing.
So then you start marinating on Lab Cabin, California. So let me give some thoughts on how I perceived it. So I felt like Bizarre Ride was like a real celebration of youth and life and fun. And Lab Cabin to me felt like the blues record that came after the high of the success. Is that a accurate?
Yeah, I think like I was talking to someone. I was like, like the 4080, like you started hearing all these groups that were, you know, just like us. So like Tribe, you know, you heard their first record, the Bonita Apple Bums and things like that, and Left My Wallet. Like it was all fun and games. But then like the next record was like Midnight Marauders. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And Daylight was Daylight is Dead.
Dead, right.
You know, so it was kind of like you started seeing, you know, all these other groups was going through it. I mean, even, you know, like Charlie Brown and Leaders in the New School, like, you know, like they had their, and then it's like, I don't want to say dark, but it was kind of like, fuck, like, okay, this industry is not all that we thought it was going to be.
Right. Like the first album, they had that PTA track. It was all fun.
Exactly. And then you started seeing that other side come out, and just music started being different. Like you started seeing the Onyx and you know, it was just a little bit harder.
What do you think that was that just exposure to the industry, or do you think socio-politically things were happening too?
I think for us, it was definitely exposure to the industry, because we felt that, you know, like we had, like I said, like it wasn't like our album had just took off, and it took you know, we was out on tour like a lot. Like I mean, we were out all the time, so it was kind of like the record company was kind of making it like, oh, you know, this is a success because of this. And then we were just like, no, like, fuck, man, this is work. Like, you know, like we didn't know it was going to be this work. And then you kind of wasn't given that green light. It was kind of like, okay, you got to go back to work again. But it was like, you kind of giving inklings, like a little bit of pieces. And to you, you're feeling like, you know what, like, man, people like this, and why are we getting treated like this? And you see other people getting treated, you know, like at that time R&B was kind of still into the thing. So you see R&B artists, and they're getting the hairdressers and this and that. You're like, fuck, like if our records are almost selling as much as their records, like why are we getting treated a certain way? Like why are we kind of being treated this way? And it just wasn't, like, a lot of stuff just wasn't adding up. Like, you know, like you were always kind of kept in the dark about certain things. And then when you asked about certain things, it kind of was like, oh, that you know, don't pay attention to that. Don't worry about that. Don't do this.
Yeah.
That's shady.
I mean, does that, I mean, did you guys ever experience that in the art world? Like you get to a certain point and then like.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. I'm so like disheartened by the publishers. I mean, Jim knows, I've talked about it a lot, but yeah, it's like I grew up with this dream of wanting to draw Marvel and DC comics and then doing my own comics. And then after working for them for, you know, a good 10 years or so, and seeing all the ins and outs of it, and seeing what they're doing and how they're treating talent, it gets kind of gross. It's kind of disheartening. They're like, oh shit. But I guess that's just life. Like, you know, you have a dream and then it comes true, and then you need a new one. So yeah, I guess
so it was like that too. And then, you know, even like during the record, when we got to doing the record, it was more or less like they wanted us to work with all these. You know, they wanted to, I mean, that was our intention too. They want us to work with Q-Tip and the Premiers and the Large Professors and the Rocks and the Beat Nuts and all these people. Because, I mean, we went to New York to basically record the record.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Okay, all right. I thought it was all recorded in LA in a house y'all were living in.
Nah, like we were like for when we did like the first record, yeah, but like the second record, no, we like fuck that. We got to go to New York. We got to go to the Mecca. Like,
oh shit.
And at the time, like it was it made sense for us because everybody thought we were from New York anyway. Still, like people like when we would tell people we were from West Coast, they'd be like, "Hell no, you guys not from there. We thought you guys were from Brooklyn or Queens or something like that." Like, nah, we're from LA. So, and then like I would say like LA kind of adopted us, but like we really got more love in like our biggest markets was like San Francisco, DC, and New York.
Yeah, I could see that.
That was like our biggest markets because I know like DC was big for us because for whatever reason, people felt like Your Mama and I can't think of the other song. They were like, "Oh, this is like Go Go." This is like
I mean, look, I grew up outside of DC, so I grew up on Go Go. I never thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were like, "Oh, this is like a hip hop go go type vibe." So like we would go do like Howard Homecoming and all those kind of things. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that exposed us to like, like Puffy at that time, because Puffy was the one that was doing the Howard Homecomings.
Right.
So it always, and people always trip out because I'm like, man, like our first show in New York, like Biggie opened up for us.
What? That's awesome. Had you heard of him when he opened up for you? Like
no, because he was brand new. He was brand new.
What did you think when you first heard him?
Like I thought when I first heard him, I was like, man, this is New York. I was just to be in New York was just like, oh my God, this is New York. You know what I'm saying? So like, no, I remember the first time me and Biggie, we went and saw him. He was eating barbecue or something like that at a barbecue place. The first time I talked to him, and I was just like, "Yo, man, you killed it last night." And he was like, "Oh, word." You know what I'm saying?
So cool.
So like, yeah, that was like the first time. So like when we got a chance to do our next record, we was like, we got to go back. Like we got to get with all the people that we supposed to get with. We got to get with Q-Tip, and like. They had embraced us to a certain level, so it was like only natural for us to go back there to try to grab that sound.
Sure,
I got you.
And then Q-Tip was one of the instrumental guys in getting Jay Dilla's music in front of everyone, right? Did he turn you on to Jay?
For sure. So like basically, when we went out to New York, we went out to New York to get New York sound. Like I wanted, like at that time, like P Rock was making like the DOS Effects remix.
Yes.
He was making Jump Around remix.
Yes.
Large Professor was doing his stuff. Beat Nuts was doing their stuff. So when we went to New York, it was like, yo, we want our tracks to sound like this, because we were like, man, if we bring this sound back, it's just going to be different for our West Coast, like a West Coast act to be kind of doing, music over East Coast beats. So that was like, that's what we were trying to get to. But once we got out there, everybody was basically giving us what they were kind of mimicking what they felt like, like Passing Me By being that, melodic and whatever. They basically was giving us songs like, oh man, we think this would be dope for you guys, which it was kind of like, it was kind of heavy melody, heavy kind of like on that level. So we were just like, man, that's not what we came out. That's not what we came out here for. We came out here to get that gritty New York type shit. You know what I'm saying? That's what we went out to New York for. So like every time we got music. No, go ahead.
Ultimately, that's not what the album sounded like.
No, so basically, at that time, Q-Tip was doing Mobb Deep's record.
Oh shit! Yeah.
So like we were going to the studio. We were hearing not the first record, because like that was like Hit It From the Back or whatever. We was hearing
you were
that Mobb Deep record that everybody loved.
Yeah, you were hearing the Infamous.
Exactly. That's what we were hearing when we was going to the studio. Like it was like at that time,
God,
I can't even like explain like the music. So like High Tech was coming down from Cleveland, and he was driving the van. So it was like you had the Talib High Tech. You was hearing that record being made.
the Reflection Eternal stuff.
Exactly.
Nice.
You was hearing Boot Camp, like Buckshot was around, so he's hearing like, Diamond D's record. It was just like you were going and you was hearing like, oh fuck, like hip hop is taking a whole different twist now, you know what I'm saying? Like we was hearing like part of like Midnight Marauders coming around, and it was just like yo, the sound is just changing. It's not like it's elevating to the next level of what it's going to be. So Tip was like, yo, I don't, I'm working on these projects, and I can just say, man, I don't really say that, I can understand you guys. He kind of felt the vibe that we wasn't really into what everybody was going, but he had did Lollapalooza, and he was like, man, I went out to Detroit and I got this tape from this guy while I was in Detroit. And he was like, I got this cassette tape. He's like, man, come over to my house and you guys should listen to it. And so we listened to this tape, and that shit was just like, it was unexplainable. It was unexplainable what it was, but we knew from first listen, like, this is the record. Like we just knew. So it was like
I just got to say, for the record, I was blown away by Lab Cabin, and that quickly became, I liked it better than Bizarre Ride.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the weird thing about it is because the records are so different, it's almost like a Crip and Blood type thing. Like you have you have people that's like, no, Bizarre Ride. And then you have people that's like, no, fuck that. It's Lab Cabin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, but for us, it was just like, what is this sound? Like, and so for me, my thing was I never wanted to make, even though we're the same group, I never wanted to be like a Run DMC, or like, I just didn't want to follow that same formula all the time.
Right.
Like I felt like I wanted our music to be different. Like whatever the concept is going to be, like that concept has to be that concept. Like I don't want to follow any type of formulas like that.
Right. That makes sense. Keep reinventing yourself.
Yeah. So when we got the tape, I want to say like they were only like 30 seconds. Like each of the tracks on the tape was like maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, nothing long enough that you could do a full rap. Like you had to keep rewinding it to get your verses or whatever together.
Right. So was Lab Cabin like essentially the first exposure of J Dilla to everyone, to the world at large?
I would think so, yeah. I would think so, yeah. I mean, I know that supposedly he was already working with Tip in some type of way. Like I know at that time you had, for you to get put on, it's kind of like you kind of like do ghost producing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which, I mean, everybody did like, I want to say kind of like each member kind of did it for Bizarre Ride. We kind of knew it was like, you got to put you may not have your name on the actual song, but you kind of got to pay your dues before you just get the acknowledgement.
Right. I gotcha.
So like, I know Dilla was making music before, but I don't know what he was able to get his name on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you guys then get together with him and he started making beats for Lab Cabin?
So once everything didn't kind of work out, we sent for Jay Dilla to come down to New York. We was like, man, we gotta have this guy come. So we have him come to New York. He's extra quiet, hella like quiet. You wouldn't. I mean, we did. I mean, our conversations was very, I would say, very minimal because he was just such a quiet dude. But he would just be in the studio and he would just be working and just making beats. So like, we made certain songs. I want to say like Running, probably Bullshit. Running, Bullshit. What other song did we make in New York? We probably made like four or five songs in New York with Dilla. And then, with JD. Or actually John Doe. And it's important that I say this because his name was John Doe when he first was doing stuff. So it was John Doe to JD that we did tracks with. We came back to California and gave it to the record company, and Delicious Vinyl was pissed the fuck off.
Why?
They didn't like it.
What?
Yeah, they hated
it.
It wasn't like the
Not
fraternity.
to play devil's advocate, but I could see that because it's so different than what
that's what I loved about it. But
the first record is, and you know, Lab Cabin was a very controversial record when it came out amongst my circle of friends.
Yeah, me too.
So obsessed with the first record that when it came out and we went and bought it at the record store, when we saw the back cover, man, where all you guys are like posing in all white suits, I have to admit, like, we were sort of horrified by that because we were like, this looks like some R&B shit. Like, what the fuck is Pharcyde doing? And then, and we got it home and we listened to it, and a lot of us were kind of looking at each other as we were going through the tracks, like, I'm not sure about this. I don't know about this. So it took me like many, many listens, and luckily I listen to records while I'm drawing, which is like countless hours every day. But it took me like a month or two to be like, okay, this record is fucking brilliant. It's just completely different than Bizarre Ride. And that's okay. That's fine. But dude, when I first started hearing some of the sing-songy R&B stuff on it,
man, oh my God, I loved it.
I was taken aback by it. I was kind of
people say we fell off. Like there, I remember articles and everybody saying, man, they fell off. Like people did not like it. I remember one of the people that really said we fell off. I remember Chris Rock was like, man, they fell off.
Oh shit.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me because I loved it from the minute I heard it. I couldn't stop listening to it, but it was different. I get that. But how did that feel to have everyone? I mean, I assume you were pretty proud of it. It's a great record. And then
at the time, I was like, I mean, of course you want people to like it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a letdown. Like you started seeing the source and certain things was like, what happened? Like, what is this? Like, what are they trying to do? You know? But it was like, it was that thing of like, okay, we're trying to experiment. Like we thought that music was like, isn't the thing to music? Like you try to experiment, like
right.
Like if you do the same shit, like is like that's like we felt like that was playing it safe, and not to knock them. Like we felt like, I mean, I won't say everybody, but I felt like for me, I felt like as much as I love Beastie Boys, I felt like sometimes they were playing it safe.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, I'm like, why do you go and do the same vibe? Like how do you do records like that? Like how do you make records that sound like the same record. Like I didn't. My thing was always like, you want the roller coaster feel. You want the emotional roller coaster. You want to take people to here and there. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that, like Trey and Imani, like they were kind of like in a singing group when they first started. You know, like that was before they started rapping. They were kind of like in our friends were like, we were friends with like New Edition, you know what I'm saying? So like when we were doing videos and stuff like that, that was our homeboys, like Bobby Brown and seeing those. Yeah, that was like our folks. So like we always were kind of like on the whole sing-songy kind of stuff already. Was just like, oh, we just happen to do this, like do the rapping kind of well. So like when we got to see the other side, and that goes back to how I was saying, like we saw how R&B people were getting treated. We was like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you kind of mixed a R&B vibe with hip hop in some type of way? And how would that sound? How would you pull that off?
Right.
And so like hearing the Dilla tracks, it wasn't like hard hip hop in a way.
Right.
You know, it was just different. We was like, oh shit, like, okay, you know what? We could actually sing a chorus to this, like, but it won't be like a pass me by, like it won't be like a other fish. Like, how can we?
Right. That's a good point. Other Fish was, I mean, it was a precursor to Lab Cabin. It's not like it was that strange to hear you all doing that, but
yeah. So like we already kind of had that vibe, but it was like, how can we be melodic on a different sense? So, but yeah, the record company didn't like it, which I mean, I can understand. You're supposed to go back to New York. We were supposed to come back with like primo records. We were supposed to come
I can't imagine what that would be like. I just feel like it'd be like, I mean, you guys are great, but it wouldn't be as original as what you're really capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you gave these guys, you know, $300,000 to go to New York to go make this record, and you're thinking like, man, when they come back, we're gonna have this P-Rock record, we're gonna have a primo record, we're gonna have Beat Nuts, and then we come back with this unknown guy, like somebody they never heard.
Who's not even from New York. He's a Detroit cat. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
but
like,
this guy is going to go on to remold hip hop entirely.
And then it was just, they were just like, who the fuck is, what is this? Like, we don't get what this is, you know? And I say like, it really didn't come across to Spike Jonze, who we met during we had met Spike Jonze during a interview with Mike D, because he had a label, he had a magazine called Grand Royal.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I love that magazine, man.
So Spike was the photographer of Grand Royal, and so when we went to Mike's house, Spike was there taking pictures, and he was like, man, you know, one day I'm gonna get my video stuff, man, you know, we'll blah, blah, blah. So we were just talking, whatever. And then he had just did Sabotage.
Right.
And so we played him, I guess we were sitting somewhere and we played him Drop. And we had already sampled Beasties in the record, so you just heard the drop, and he was like, "Oh shit, I wanna fucking do that video."
Dude, that's such a cool video.
Yeah, amazing.
How was it shooting? Oh, go ahead.
So by the time we did that, when we did that video and Spike, and then we got the Beastie Boys to come down into the video, and then, you know, it kind of went back, like the whole Dust Brothers and stuff. So they was just like, oh shit, like, okay, this has come to a full circle now of like, you guys are doing something, and Beasties are part of this and all that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
What was that video shoot like? Was it difficult for you all, or did you just was all the tricky stuff done in the setup and post on Spike's end?
No, so I would always have to say that like he knew exactly what he wanted to do. So he was like, "Hey, you guys are gonna get with this linguist, and the linguist."
Oh my God, I was wondering. Okay, go ahead.
So the linguist is gonna phonetically break down how you guys how it was basically sounds. So he's like, okay, you got to learn these sounds, and when we play the video the other way, the way that you formulate the sounds, the way you move your mouth is going to make these sounds are going to make it look like you're doing your rap forwards.
That's exactly what I was wondering about. Holy shit.
Yep.
So you had a linguist teach you that?
So we had a linguist for like a week and a half before we did the video. He would just come down and was teaching us sounds. He was like, okay, he wrote like all our raps to mimic sounds, and he was trying to teach us how to move our mouth. He's like, when you do this, you got to move your mouth like this, because then when we, it was like we would do it, and then he would play the tape backwards to show us what he was explaining, like how it's going to look like we're rapping our verses going forward. So yeah, so like he knew exactly, like Spike knew exactly what he wanted to do. Like I like nobody. There was the only idea that we wanted to do in the video was the whole stair part. He's like, man, it'd be dope if we go down the stairs and we're falling and it looks like it's all reversed or whatever. That's the only thing that I can say.
Wow.
That's amazing, man. That's great.
That's so cool to hear that story. So, was Lab Cabin ever celebrated? Like, did it hit its mark ever? I don't know, because I just love the album and I didn't.
I think unfortunately to me, when it hit its mark is post Dilla's death. I think that's when people kind of like started to understand, like, wow, okay, you guys were kind of like the first guys to you guys saw something first that nobody really didn't understand. And then I say, like, that's kind of like, I mean, people liked it. I can't say like Run In, people like Run In, people like Drop. They like the video kind of stuff. But I think like for people to fully acknowledge it was like after Dilla pretty much passed away. Then it was like, holy shit, like we never thought that created a whole movement of this guy doing some stuff.
Right.
Do you like, it's kind of a weird question, I guess. Do you
Nothing's weird. Go ahead, Sean.
What is it like? Do you see those two records as like, in my eyes, and I think in a lot of people's eyes, those are two of the greatest, I mean, definitely hip hop albums ever made, but two of my favorite albums ever. And like, do you feel like, do you look at it that way? Like we created two of the greatest hip hop records?
Nah, I really like, I mean, I feel blessed to be part of the records like that, but I can honestly say, like, besides like, okay, I know I gotta go and perform the songs, but I never really listened to the record. I never really listened to our records like that. Like I still have it. I listened to them, but I never sat down like it was like, oh my God, like this is such a masterpiece. Like I never did that.
Yeah,
but I think that's just my personality.
I think that's typical of most artists. If they do produce like something like masterpiece level, I don't think they see it. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
I think it's hard to
separate yourself from something that you spent time with. Like it goes out into the world and then it just becomes its own thing when it's in the world, and the world has a different view of it and a way of consuming it and appreciating it than the person who made it. So, you know, once I make a new comic book and the book is published and actually comes out as a thing people can buy, I don't really look at it after that.
Right. But if you do you just, like for me, like if I look at something I've done that's out on the shelf, I just see all the problems. How I wish I could have done this better or that better.
Oh, sure. There's that. Yeah, there's always that. Yeah.
Brown, do you have that?
For me, I think like it's more or less like, and still even to this day, I feel I have this thing like I mean, a lot of people don't understand like Bizarre Ride was incomplete. Like we had other songs that didn't go on there, but we just because we had to turn the record in, we didn't have enough time to do other songs that we wanted to do. So, and the same thing with Lab Cabin, like all those records were kind of like incomplete. And even to like our lesser known records that we made afterwards, it was like, you know, it was just like a lot of things that was going on that the records never was, in my mind, what I wanted it to be. So I feel like for me, it's more or less like I still haven't did that project that I'm like, yo, this is it. Like this is the one, you know? And I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, you know, like I should just be happy. Like I really did something to accomplish. But I felt like if everybody else appreciated it, then that was good enough for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? But as far as my heart and my artistry and what I felt, it never was like, I never felt like I made it to that place where I was just like, this is exactly what I wanted people to feel and get and understand.
Right. I think if you hit that, I feel like that's probably the death of the artist, because where do you go from there? Like it's that for me, it feels like it's that constantly trying to get to this imaginary place with your art that keeps driving you to try to get there. I can't imagine that getting there would be a good thing.
But then at the same, but then it's just like it. What I realized with our records and just our group in general was like, it always was like a 5-year, like nobody ever got our music just off the bat. Like that just never was the case. Like, you know what I'm saying? For people always thought like, oh, you make this and people gonna get it. It's like, from the first records to all the way to the last record, in my mind, it always was like, you know what? People are just not going to get this. Maybe like not till 5 or 10 years later, and people may hate it. Like that just may be the case. So it was good because it kind of thickened, it kind of like toughened up my skin to like not feeling like I'm a loser. Basically, like, you know, like, cause you could just have that like, damn, nobody likes this. And this is garbage, you know? And so like, I appreciate, you know, it's you know, I'm pretty sure like some things are not as good as other things, but I realize I can appreciate things at a certain level of what I do. And so I just kind of take that concept on. It's like, oh yeah, that was good. You know, like, oh yeah, you like passing me by that's cool. I appreciate the love that people felt, and like hearing, you know, my kid was born because of this. You know, me and my wife met and
right,
being born and stuff like that. Like hearing those kind of stories, it's like, oh shit, like that, you know, that touched people in a different way. So I love and appreciate that. But as far as me as an artist, I still feel somewhat incomplete in a level that I haven't really maximized on what I'm trying to get to yet.
Jim, how about you? You feel that way too?
I think that that's a good feeling to have in a way, though, because it always keeps you moving forward. Like, I think once you become content, or if you say, hey, I just made this project, it's fucking great, it's perfect, my work is done here, you sort of almost die creatively if you,
that's what I'm
feel
saying.
that way, because the whole point for me is to keep waking up each day and saying, okay, now I'm going to crush it even harder today. Like, now I'm going to bring it even more today. And like that's the drive that I personally need to just keep staying creative, being inspired to be creative, and having it be enjoyable and fun, as opposed to a problem, you know, or never being satisfied. You know, it's a weird balance, man, that each artist kind of has to figure out, I think, for themselves.
Yeah. And so that brings me to the whole, like, where we at now with like me working with Sean and the project that we're trying to get together now, and all those kind of things, because it's like, I felt like what I wanted to do was my knowledge of just the arts, and not just, and when I mean, like, not just about going into the studio and rapping. Like what is my overall knowledge? Like, okay, video from, I mean, my whole thing has always been concept. I always felt like I have to have the concept first before I go into stuff. That's almost something that I have to kind of like know before I even get into something, because I want to tell people, when people ask me certain things, like, they're looking at it in one way, and I'm like, yeah, it's this, but then this is the flip to everything. So it's like, I gotta kind of have that concept. So like, now the whole streaming, the video stuff, all the stuff that I'm doing now is kind of like, it's like almost like a data, like I'm doing this hardcore data background to kind of learn certain things and techniques to kind of like, this is what I'm going to come with now. Like I know people are doing this, but this is going to be the concept that I'm trying to come with now, as far as the music and this and that and the artwork, and why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? You know, I think like a lot of people, I mean, there's younger I guess when you're young, you don't necessarily think about all those kind of things, and it's not for you to think about those kind of things. But I think once you get older and you're kind of seasoned, I think it's more or less like you pay attention to those details. Like the details start becoming a lot more of what it is.
Right.
So that's kind of like where I'm at now. I feel like, yeah, I'm still making music, but I'm learning different things. I'm kind of learning myself more. And yeah, I think like at the same time, I'm like, it's exciting. What makes things exciting, because you feel like people say, oh, like, you know, old people are not supposed to make music. But then like you have this last Busta Rhymes album that's out now. And you're like, no, wait a minute. There's still a chance, man. There's still
right.
You know what I'm saying? There's still a chance we can still do this. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, you know, like you guys drawn, and then like all the Marvel movies and stuff start coming out, and you start seeing different things, and the video games and stuff like that. You're like, nah, there's this other element that's out here that, and what's going to be the next, and like you trying to figure out what is going to be the next, and how can I be ahead of the curve, and be there.
I think that pulls right back to the project you and I are doing. I think that's it.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at now. I just feel like I still, you know, Bizarre Ride was cool. Lab Rap Cabin was cool. I love it. I love working with the people I worked with. It got me to here. I can never take that back. But man, wait till people just, I always have this thing, wait till you see me now. So I just try to have that attitude, and I think that makes me not listen to the records. Like I try not to get trapped in that zone of like, oh man, like I'm never going to be able to make that mark, you know?
Right. Did how did the Gorillaz thing come about, and did that kind of influence the thinking on like where you're moving now a bit?
Yeah, for sure. I would say like, well, I didn't meet Damon. The whole Gorillaz thing started off because I was friends with Danger Mouse. And so like we did this project with Danger Mouse, and he was like, man, your voice, whatever. So he's like, man, let's try this demo out. I didn't even know that it was going to be for Gorillaz. He was just like, yo, I got a chance to do this demo, come down to my house and record this stuff. And so I recorded it, and then that's when I got the word back. Was like, oh yeah, this is for the Gorillaz' next album, and man, they really like the song, and we're gonna do all this kind of stuff. Because I think I'm not sure if it was the first song that was kind of like, I think, yeah, I want to say that kind of was like the first song that was kind of leading, like they was just starting the project and they didn't know if they were going to work with Danger Mouse or not. And that kind of like sealed his deal of him like being a producer working with that record.
What did you do with Danger Mouse before that? So
Danger Mouse had this, he was with this, I can't even think of I know the song was called Medieval, but he was working with this rapper. It wasn't like a big record at the time. He was just like, because Danger Mouse, I think he's an Atlanta person. Danger Mouse was staying in Atlanta, and he was just, he was just making this different type of music. And it was just like, damn, who is this guy? Like, you know what I'm saying? And we did the song, and then he asked me to do the demo. And it was so crazy because like even during, and I would have to say like Danger Mouse is one of those guys that I kind of click with, because he's kind of the same type of dude. Like even during the whole Gorillaz thing, he liked it, but he was like, man, I got this project coming out and people are not going to understand what it is. And we were like, man, what could be better than this? And that's when he started playing us the Gnarls Barkley stuff.
Oh.
Right.
And he was just like, dude, he's like, people are not going to understand this. And we were like, he was like, I'm working with CeeLo, and we like CeeLo, and it was just nothing, like nothing made any type of sense or whatever. It was just like, oh. And then when it came out, I was like, oh shit. Like
it was, dude, that crazy track, you couldn't escape it.
Yeah.
It was just everywhere for a full year or so. I mean, great track, but after a while I was like, fuck. Crazy. Yeah. I gotta get away from this song, man. It's brilliant, but it was like you could not go anywhere, literally anywhere, without hearing that track. I mean, it was huge. It was incredible. Yeah. So Danger Mouse is shit, man. I love his stuff. He's amazing.
So he was doing that, and then he was doing the Danger Doom stuff at the same time.
Yes.
That's my shit.
So he in his mind, he was just like, man, wait till people start seeing what this new stuff is. He's like, that's cool, but I'm not locked into it like that. And I was just like, fuck, like, okay. There's other people that kind of think like how I think, like, like I'm still haven't did my best yet,
Right. Yeah. That's how I feel.
That's the best. I mean, I was just gonna say, it sounds like Danger Mouse is in that same mode of like, oh well, you haven't even heard the freshest shit yet. Like the next thing I'm doing, that I think that's a good attitude.
Yeah, and then after that, he started working with like Jack White and like all these like,
oh yeah,
just all kind of crazy stuff,
Right.
the Black Keys. He did one of their
Yes.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
So I would say like the Gorillaz thing was the one thing that I got out of the Gorillaz thing was like, which helped me was like I got to meet people I would never ever meet in my lifetime. Like I don't think I'd ever meet like I remember just talking to Bobby Womack and just calling. We would just talk all the time, and so he would just tell me stories. And then Ike Turner I met Ike Turner, and Ike Turner, we became really cool. And and like Lou Reed was there, and just talking to Lou Reed.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was talking to Lou Reed like? That's crazy.
It was crazy for me because like I was on stage, and his manager, he called me over and he was like, Mr. Reed want to talk to you. And I was like, Mr. Reed? And he's like, yeah, Lou Reed wants. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is... And my dad being a hippie, I was just like, my dad would never believe this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, he would never believe that, like, this guy is really like, and he was, Lou, he was just like, dude, your energy, just like everything that you're doing. He was just like, man, like, he was like, I really like what you're doing. And and we even talked about working. Like, he was like, man, like, once I get whatever, but, he was kind of old at that time. And so, like,
right.
I mean, to the point where like, he kind of had to have help to like walk him out on the stage kind of
thing. Right.
And so, it was just, but just to meet like those kind of people, like I felt that I was doing music. Like I didn't feel like I'm just doing hip hop outside or whatever. I felt like man, like hearing Bobby Womack and he's telling me, his dealings with like Jimi Hendrix and
oh my God,
and Sam Cooke and talking to Ike Turner, and he's telling me about how he made records and the Tina Turner stuff and like how not to. It was just like, and I look at documentaries now and I'm just like, oh man, like people don't even know. Like there's like a whole nother side to like these stories that people, like I talked to these guys and they told me what the stories are. So it was amazing. It was amazing for that fact, just the whole Gorillaz vibe. That's why I say like, man, that has, it humbled me to a level, and like I felt accepted. Like if I never felt accepted, I felt like fuck, like the music community, like beyond Bismarck or somebody saying, dude, you guys are dope, man, you guys are dope. It's like we've been accepted by, I was accepted by real musicians, like real writers, people that really made music to what it is today.
Right, you had moved beyond the genre of hip hop.
Exactly. That experience is almost equal to or anything of like the whole bizarre ride and making records. Just like having like listening to those stories and like, because I can't. There's no way that I'll. That's not something that everybody experienced. Like I can't go to everybody and say, oh man, I was talking to Bobby Womack and he was telling me, he had this story about he had Jimi Hendrix first guitar, and he basically was the person that gives the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jimi Hendrix guitar, because basically Jimi Hendrix, when he would do his shows, he would always pawn his guitar before his show would go. And then he would like freak out because he needed to have his guitar and he wanted that guitar before he would do his show. And he would not know where he pawned it. So like,
because of drugs?
He would just be so far out of it in drugs and everything. He would just pawn his guitar. So like people would actually have to go to all these pawn shops in LA to try to locate his guitar because he didn't want to do a show without having that guitar.
Oh my God.
Damn.
So like it was, and it wasn't those expensive. I think Bobby was like, he said like this guitar came from like Sears or whatever, and like he basically broke the guitar arm from the guitar, and he nailed the arm back into the guitar. And it was like a nail that he would just nail it back and then put the strings on and just start playing.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And then at that time, like, you know, because he was a lefty, he played the guitar the other way.
Right.
They didn't make guitars for left-handed guitar players. So like, yeah, Bob would it was just like stories, like crazy stories like that. And we would just sit on the plane. He would just call me over and just tell me these different stories and, you know, give me his things, you know, and like, you know, once again, like he was just telling me, he was just like, you know, he broke down the whole drugs thing. He was just like, man, drugs, like, he's like, man, I did so much crazy shit just fucking with these drugs, man. He was like, don't ever let that dominate your creativity, or you feel like that's what you need, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fuck, man. Well,
Amazing.
I believe in the organic process of the podcast, and that just felt like a beautiful closing. I mean, I want to talk to you about so much more with Jim, so maybe we can do another one.
Oh man, we always have time, man, and you know, I just want to say I appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate you guys trusting me and us doing the podcast together and all that kind of stuff. And man, I want it all to make sense. I think once we have the project shine, it'll all make sense.
I agree. I totally agree. And I gotta thank you too. I mean, this just getting to work with you was a dream, but getting to know you has been better than that. So
man, we got a long ways to go, and you know, shit, man. I want now that the association with Jim is there and stuff like that, like it's even now to take it that much further, you know, and start embracing the ideas of other bigger things and greater things to come.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Let's build on it. And Brown, it was a pleasure to meet you, man, and great hanging out. This was awesome.
Oh man, we're gonna do much more. Man, the drawing, I've just been watching you do that the whole time. That shit is fucking fun.
Jim, tell us what you got going on over there.
I just did this freestyle of this girl. I don't know, this evil, like witchy kind of girl.
It's kind of like Queen, the Aaliyah, Queen of the Dam kind of thing.
It could be on that vibe. I'm still probably on a Halloween vibe right now, but yeah, it's got some witchy, strange stuff going on with it. There's a giant mushroom down here. Right here.
I was looking at. I was like, both of these guys got mushrooms.
Yeah, I got mushrooms too. Yeah, Jim. See, I finally finished it.
Oh yeah, dude. Those colors are fantastic.
They are.
I want to get it under a black light and see if it really.
You gotta make that. When you were saying, now I was like, that's like the velvet painting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. All right, cool. So that came across. Good.
Killer, man.
All right, fellas. So I'm gonna hit stop, and then we can say goodbye after that. So, but thanks for coming on, Brown. Thanks again, Jim.
Of course.
The Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop,